The music throbbed through the Tennessee woods like a living creature, pulsing with nostalgia, rebellion, and the unmistakable scent of burnt marshmallows and teenage sweat. It was the second night of the Freedom and Fire Music Fest, half county fair, half underground rave, and Jessie Harper was standing on top of a beer cooler, flipping off a drone she thought belonged to her ex-boyfriend. It didn't. 15 feet above her, a reconnaissance orb from the Galactic Empire's Zarthan collective whirred silently, its crystalline lens locking onto her middle finger with unsettling precision. Across the galaxy, in the command chamber of the dreadnought Zinthrax Prime, High Executor Ilract watched the feed with the narrowed eyes of someone trying to decode a war ritual disguised as a dance circle. "Observe their coordination," Ilract muttered, gesturing to a gaggle of glitter-covered girls scream-singing the chorus of "I Want It That Way." This must be a battle hymn. Their unity is disturbing. His second-in-command, a three-eyed analyst named Vorn, adjusted his neural visor. They appear to be bonding intensely. "Should we intervene?" "Immediately," Ilract ordered. "Extract specimens before their psychic resonance reaches critical threshold. We cannot risk another Woodstock incident." In less than 7 seconds, 7 human girls vanished from Earth without so much as a scream. The music kept thumping, the bonfire kept crackling, and Jessie's best friend Lacey, mid-marshmallow roast, assumed the girls had just gone to pee. Jessie awoke face first on a floor that wasn't a floor. It shimmered beneath her like liquid, silver pulsing in sync with a low hum that made her fillings ache. She blinked, groaned, and sat up. Her head throbbed like the morning after prom, and something smelled like burnt nachos. "What the actual—" she muttered, staring at the vast chamber of glowing glyphs and translucent walls around her. "Jessie?" piped a familiar voice from behind a floating orb. "Did we get abducted? Because I think I saw a giant jellyfish with legs. And also, my phone has 0 bars." Cassie Taylor, queen of sarcastic apathy and third-string volleyball captain, stumbled into view, clutching her cracked iPhone like it was the last hope of humanity. Behind her came Jayla, Zoe, Emily, Rosa, and Kelly, each at various stages of denial, panic, or adrenaline-fueled Instagramming. Jessie cracked her neck. "No way I'm letting this be the end of my story. We get taken by freaking aliens, and not even during Coachella?" In the control room above them, Vorn stared at the group in horror. "Sir, one of them has begun vocalizing again. She's making rhythmic demands, possibly a curse." Ilract leaned in. "Translate," the onboard AI replied. "She says, 'I swear to God, if y'all don't have coffee, I will sue the Milky Way into a black hole.'" Ilract recoiled. "What is a coffee? And why does it sound like a chemical weapon?" Down below, Jessie spotted something that looked vaguely like a USB port glowing on a wall. She pulled a glittery pink flash drive from her fanny pack, a relic from middle school loaded with mixtapes and conspiracy PDFs, and without hesitation jammed it into the socket. The lights dimmed. A low screech echoed through the ship as alien code scrambled and twisted in response. The floor lit up in red. Somewhere in the system's nervous core, 1,000 years of hyper-advanced coding collapsed under the might of bootleg LimeWire files and Avril Lavigne's SK8er boy. In the armory, defense drones misidentified each other as hostile pop-up ads and opened fire. In the navigation sector, the ship developed a desire to find itself and began drifting in a spiral, playing 90s sitcom themes over the intercom. Back in the holding cell, Jessie clapped her hands. "Cool, I broke space." By the time the Galactic Empire's top engineers identified the issue, it was too late. The girls had accessed the onboard food synthesizer, the gravity controls, and, God help them, the communications panel. Jayla, an aspiring YouTuber with no sense of self-preservation, was now live-streaming their captivity to over 3 million viewers on Earth. Her caption read, "We in space, y'all. Send nuggets. Galactic Girls. Freedom Fest 2025." Earth's response was not diplomatic. When the signal hit, the Pentagon went into full lockdown. The president, who'd been golfing in Florida, was yanked mid-putt into a bunker-turned command center and handed a phone already ringing with every major defense agency on the line. "What's the threat level?" he asked, towel still on his shoulder. "Sir, 7 American teenagers have been abducted by aliens," said the NSA director, "and they appear to be winning." The president blinked. "Winning what?" "Everything, sir. The aliens have shut down ship systems, suffered emotional trauma from exposure to boy band lyrics, and their neural grid just tried to classify Friends as a war crime." A brief pause. Then, grimly, "Activate Omega Protocol." Deep in the Nevada desert, black site. Omega roared to life. Dust flew, lights flared. Ancient vending machines groaned and rebooted. A secret response team, one that hadn't been activated since the Great Elvis hoax of 1972, assembled with terrifying speed and even worse fashion sense. Leading the charge, Tank Sullivan, a retired Marine with one eye, 3 confirmed wars, and a moral compass permanently stuck on America. Beside him, Ricky Blaze, a conspiracy radio host with a mullet so majestic it had its own gravitational pull. And lastly, Barb Simmons, former cafeteria supervisor, current prepper queen, and the only person to ever win a knife fight using a spork. "This, the call?" Tank asked, slapping his combat boots into place. "It's the call," Barb said, strapping on an apron lined with throwing utensils. "And they messed with our girls." Back on the Zinthrax Prime, the chaos escalated. Rosa was now leading a motivational workshop for terrified alien crew members titled "How to Cry Like a Human and Why It's Good for Your Soul." Emily had taken over the navigational charts and renamed several planets: Taylor Swiftia, Snackonia, and Planet Starbucks. Zoe discovered that the ship's internal defense systems could be disabled with the phrase, "OMG, stop being so dramatic," triggering an emotional feedback loop that made half the ship's AI sulk into dormancy. The girls weren't just surviving, they were colonizing. Ill-racked, drenched in his own coolant from stress overheating, turned to Vorn. "We must initiate containment. If this spreads, we won't just lose the ship. We'll lose the war of perception." "Too late, sir," Vorn said as a new broadcast fed into their monitors. "Jayla again." This time, she stood in a command chair wearing a glitter-streaked cape made of emergency blankets. "Hi, this is your captain speaking. We're rerouting this alien Uber back to Earth. Someone tell my mom not to ground me." Static. Then laughter. Then total silence across the command bridge. Down on Earth, the feed played in every newsroom, military base, and middle school across the nation. And while the world watched in a haze of disbelief and popcorn-munching anticipation, America did what it always did when pushed too far. It declared war. But not just any war. Total war. Not for oil. Not for borders, but for their girls. And this time, they weren't coming politely. They were coming American, with denim, duct tape, and a vengeance 3 decades in the making. And somewhere, floating among the stars, Jessie grinned into a hologram lens and whispered, "Hope y'all got HBO up here, 'cause this is about to get real cinematic." Then she hit play on her mixtape, and Bohemian Rhapsody echoed through the alien dreadnought like the opening shot of an ancient, glorious, utterly ridiculous battle. The hangar bay of the Zinthrax Prime now bore a resemblance less to a military warship and more to a poorly managed backstage at a pop concert. Smoke machines, commandeered from atmospheric calibrators, hissed rhythmically as Jessie strutted down the catwalk they'd fashioned from a disassembled maintenance bridge. She wasn't walking. She was delivering a message. To the aliens. to the galaxy. To anyone who thought they could snatch 7 American girls without unleashing pure, unapologetic chaos. Down below, the alien technicians were curled behind consoles, their antennae twitching nervously at every beat drop. Each of them had a different reason for praying to their respective pantheons, but the unifying thread was fear, not of harm, but of unpredictability. These human girls operated on no recognizable logic, no galactic protocol. They were emotionally unhinged, culturally incomprehensible, and strategically devastating. And somehow, weirdly magnetic. Jessie snapped her fingers. Cassie tossed her a pair of sunglasses. The lights dimmed. A remix of Eye of the Tiger echoed through the ship, distorted by alien speakers not meant for bass this heavy. Across the bridge, Ilract stared down at the carnage with what could only be described as religious confusion. "They don't just resist," he whispered. "They improvise." Vorn, still wearing a neck brace after slipping on spilled nacho cheese during the first breakout, nodded slowly. "It's worse than resistance. It's creativity." Meanwhile, Earth's full-scale response was unfolding like the opening act of a John Woo movie with Michael Bay's budget and Quentin Tarantino's taste for the absurd. Across military bases, ancient prototypes were being dusted off. Soldiers trained on digital strategy were now reviewing VHS tapes of Desert Storm and 80s action flicks for reference. At NORAD, someone unearthed a classified file simply labeled Redneck Contingency, which contained a single sentence: "If diplomacy fails, let the South cook." And the South was cooking. The Jones brothers of Huntsville, Alabama had already duct-taped 4 lawn chairs to a retired NASA booster and declared, "We're getting our girls back, y'all." The video went viral before launch. In California, a rogue band of Hollywood stunt drivers outfitted muscle cars with jury-rigged ion thrusters and mounted VHS camcorders to the dashboards. Their plan was simple: speed toward the stratosphere. Hope physics blinked first. Back in orbit, Jayla discovered the ship's intergalactic radio frequencies and hijacked them to broadcast live segments of their captors' panic attacks. She titled the program Alien Anxiety, Humans Unplugged. Viewership skyrocketed. She began getting sponsorship offers from Earth. Kelly, having figured out the translation module by brute force and sarcastic miming, had begun reprogramming the alien security bots. She renamed them after characters from The Breakfast Club and forced them to watch old sitcom reruns. The bots became obsessed with Cheers and started quoting Norm unprompted. Emily, now deeply invested in her planetary rebranding project, decided to reorganize the star charts entirely. "These star systems are boring," she declared. "This one's Planet Pop-Tart. That one? Kevin Bacon IA. Let's get some personality in this galaxy." Jessie, however, had her focus locked on something bigger: getting to the bridge. Not just to confront Ilract, but to take command. Not just of the ship, but of the situation. She had seen the panic ripple through their ranks. The Empire had never encountered chaos like this because they didn't understand one fundamental truth. Humans didn't follow rules. They made a mess until the rules cried Uncle Rosa, armed with a mix of aggressive optimism and stolen medical supplies, had converted a corridor into a makeshift wellness spa, which mostly involved giving therapy sessions to traumatized alien guards and force-feeding them aromatherapy packets stolen from an Earth-themed exhibit. "Hydrate or dihydrate," she whispered to one sobbing Zarnaxian. "Let the peppermint seep into your trauma." Elsewhere, Tank Sullivan and his ragtag strike team were halfway to orbit. Riding a decommissioned space shuttle upgraded with slapdash alien tech scavenged from Area 51, the interior looked like a Red Lobster had a baby with a gun show. Ricky Blaze handled comms while Barb Simmons oversaw weapons and snack rations. Tank sat at the front, chewing on a cigar stub he hadn't lit since '99. Once we hit that dreadnought, we breach loud. We breach fast. We retrieve our girls. And if anyone resists, Barb interrupted, we serve 'em hot soup and an ass-kicking. Hell yeah. The moment was interrupted by the shuttle's proximity alarm. A defense perimeter had just activated around Zinthrax Prime. Swarms of sentry drones buzzed toward them like metal hornets. Ricky flipped a switch labeled, "Do not press unless America," and a dozen homemade fireworks exploded from their hull, temporarily blinding the incoming fleet with red, white, and blue glitter smoke. Tank grinned. Fireworks! Never underestimate. The classics. Back on the ship, Jesse's squad had reached the upper decks. The girls worked like a single unit, not through military training, but through the shared cultural knowledge of group projects, sleepovers, and surviving high school pep rallies. They were synchronized in the chaotic, instinctual way only teenage girls could be. Adaptable, sarcastic, and irrationally fearless. Vorn watched from the bridge, his fingers trembling as he pointed to the camera feed. "Sir, they are reprogramming the flagship. One of them just renamed our tactical interface Karen and asked to speak to its manager." Ilrak's lip curled. "They weaponize ridicule. We must suppress them. Now." But it was too late. Jessie entered the bridge like a hurricane in sneakers and glitter. Her crew behind her, she locked eyes with Ilrak and said, "Hi there. You kidnapped the wrong cheer captain." Ilrak raised a trembling finger. "You are not warriors. You are erratic, illogical." "Exactly," Jessie said. "And that's what makes us dangerous. You planned for soldiers. You got drama queens with a vengeance complex." She snapped her fingers. The navigation console now played Danger Zone at full volume. In the confusion, Cassie hit a button that sent the entire fleet's autopilot system into what the girls had labeled spring break mode. Ships across the galaxy rerouted themselves to Earth's orbit, drawn by the signal of Jayla's livestream and the scent of impending humiliation. Earth's skies lit up. One by one, alien vessels began arriving above the planet. Not in an invasion formation, but in a flailing mass of confused ships, all broadcasting variations of, "Please explain what is American Pie," and "Who is this Bruce Willis, and why do I want to cry?" The planet, in turn, responded with coordinated mayhem. Every human quirk, every ridiculous piece of culture, 80s training montages, pro wrestling, bad infomercials, began to bleed into the fabric of galactic reality. Humanity hadn't just declared war, they declared personality. And Jessie stood at the center, a glittery, furious avatar of Earth's insanity, pointing at the stunned High Executor and declaring, "Welcome to Season 1. We're just getting started." In the silence that followed, a distant boom echoed through the hull. Tank Sullivan and his team had just breached the loading bay with a battering ram made of a Chevy Silverado. They emerged, armed and confused. Barb surveyed the chaos. Are the girls winning?" "Looks like it," Ricky muttered. "Damn proud of 'em." Tank holstered his weapon and looked at Jessie. "You ready to come home?" She nodded once. "After we finish what we started." Ilrak slumped to his knees, muttering in disbelief. "We took children, and they brought the apocalypse." Jessie leaned in close. "No, sweetie. We brought America." As the ship reeled from the overload of contradictions and pop culture, Earth's signal pulsed through every system, hijacking every screen in the Empire. And in the heart of that chaos, 7 girls prepared to write the next chapter of human history, armed with nothing but sarcasm, glitter, and the kind of irrational confidence only high school seniors and action heroes truly possess. The air aboard Zinthrax Prime had changed. It was thicker now, not from oxygen density, but from tension, confusion, and the unmistakable scent of peanut butter pretzels someone smuggled aboard from Earth's snack stash. Jessie stood at the epicenter, not just a survivor, but a growing legend in galactic whispers. The kind of chaos catalyst no Empire training manual had prepared for. Behind her, her girls fortified the bridge, flipping consoles like poker cards, each beep and flash another declaration of rebellion wrapped in glitter and vengeance. Cassie found the controls to the internal broadcast system and immediately uploaded a playlist titled "Revenge is a Dish Best Served with Synthwave." Emily installed a scrolling news ticker on the bridge screens, cycling headlines like "Galactic Empire Cries in the Club" and "Local Teens Hijack Dreadnought." More at 11. Meanwhile, Kelly and Jayla pored over the fleet's communication grid, not just jamming it but turning it into a low-budget variety show titled Oops, all humans hosted by sarcastic AI clones of themselves. It would have been farcical if it wasn't effective. Ilracht hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. He was still there, kneeling near the nav console, staring into a shattered piece of the display, like it held the secret to reversing this madness. He'd studied hundreds of species, endured wars, rebellions, even parasitic uprisings on Jundar 6. But this wasn't war. This was cultural colonization through weaponized absurdity. His fleet's morale reports were now unreadable due to spontaneous emoji insertions and unexplained quotes from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The Empire was fracturing under the weight of unfiltered humanity. Tank Sullivan's boots echoed across the steel deck, walking a slow circle around Jesse. The man had seen combat in 3 hemispheres and once fought off insurgents with a spork. He didn't rattle easily. But what these girls were doing, it was art. Madness, but art. "You're not just holding this ship," Tank said slowly. "You're redirecting its course, and the Empire's." Jesse nodded, eyes never leaving the stars outside the viewport. They wanted compliant victims. What they got were American girls who grew up on spy thrillers, sugar, and too many video games. Barb Simmons passed them holding a tangle of wiring that may have once been a communication node and was now possibly a popcorn machine. "Fleet comms are down," she said. "Also, I taught the bridge AI how to swear. It said its first y'all." Jayla chuckled without looking up. "They wanted to understand humanity? They should have started with Taco Bell at 2 a.m. and ended with why we can't agree on the metric system." Back on Earth, global coordination had gone from theoretical to unhinged brilliance. The world's hackers broke every protocol in the book, aligning to flood the Empire's frequencies with memes, movie quotes, and thousands of bootleg die-hard streams in different languages. The international space community, long shackled by bureaucratic red tape, turned to social media for strategy. NASA posted the specs for a hyperspace slingshot with the caption, "Don't ask, just build." Elon Musk live-streamed a flamethrower-wielding robotic moose on a test rocket. Canada declared themselves emotionally supportive but politely declined combat roles unless maple syrup supplies were threatened. From orbit, reinforcements were arriving, unofficial, mostly unsanctioned Earthlings with nothing to lose, and patriotism painted across their ships. A ragtag militia of retirees in converted RVs with solar sails called themselves the Grumpy Alliance. Florida had somehow launched a cruise ship into orbit with catapults and determination. The Empire, long confident in its technological superiority, now found itself surrounded by vessels broadcasting Taylor Swift lyrics, Super Bowl highlights, and educational videos about how to grill the perfect burger. But the greatest pressure point wasn't outside the dreadnought, it was within. Jesse had spent the last 3 hours dissecting the cultural weaknesses of the Zinthraxian command structure. What she found was a hierarchy built on rigid logic, unwavering control, and an allergy to unpredictability. So she did what no other military force in the galaxy would do. She brought in chaos theory, teenage angst, and psychological warfare disguised as game night. Uno cards replaced clearance keys. Paranoia spread like wildfire. No one trusted their co-workers, not since Emily rewired the security interface to issue reverse pranks, that cause doors to open inwards, spray silly string, or play Rick Astley on loop. Officers stopped reporting for duty, unsure if their next console activation would be a trap or a flash mob. Yilracht tried to initiate a ship-wide lockdown. Jessie laughed. "You think we haven't been grounded before?" she said, flipping the override. "Please, my mom invented lockdowns." Rosa deployed morale bombs, holograms of puppies and motivational posters that questioned the Empire's life choices. One corridor now looped a recording of an elderly Earthwoman softly muttering passive-aggressive insults. Some Zinthraxian. Guards cracked in under 10 minutes. Kelly initiated the final stage of the plan, redirecting the Dreadnought's primary cannon array away from Earth and directly into the core of the Empire's flagship command relay. A gesture not of destruction, but symbolic humiliation. The girls weren't just fighting back, they were broadcasting humanity's chaos to every system within the Empire's reach. "Fire," Jessie said. A pulse of light streaked through the void and shattered a communications beacon 3 solar systems away. The message was clear. Earth wasn't kneeling. Earth was dancing on the throne room table. In the aftermath, the Imperial Council gathered in a fractured holographic emergency session. Faces of alien commanders flickered with disbelief. Tactical predictions had never accounted for adolescent humans wielding sarcasm and a burning desire to prove a point. Galactic intelligence officers delivered reports in broken sentences. They turned the brig into a karaoke lounge. There's line dancing happening on the observation deck. One of them convinced the ship to self-identify as a Yeehaw-class freedom vessel. The chair of the council, a gnarled being known as Varkun the Immutable, leaned forward and whispered the words that would haunt a generation of alien scholars. "We made a mistake." Back aboard the Zinthrax Prime, Jessie turned to her team. "We've cracked their morale, their systems, their dignity. Now we end it." Jayla pulled up a transmission window. "You sure you want to say it now? You don't want to, like, monologue?" Jessie grinned. "Nah, we've got a whole galaxy watching. Let's drop the mic." She activated the general broadcast. "To the Galactic Empire. We're not soldiers. We're not diplomats. We're not even grown-ups. But you took us, tried to cage us, and now you're reaping the whirlwind of every teen girl who ever got underestimated. You wanted obedience. You got glitter bombs and psychological warfare. We don't surrender. We synchronize our chaos. And Earth doesn't beg. Earth responds." The screen went dark. On the other end of the line, silence fell like ash. Then, in distant systems, Zinthraxian officers began resigning en masse. Training centers rewrote their syllabi to include a section on human unpredictability. Cultural liaison programs were launched, but no one could fully translate the term slumber party vengeance arc. And at the heart of it all, 7 girls, a disoriented rescue team, and one duct-taped dreadnought began piloting themselves home. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were the storm. The return journey to Earth wasn't a silent victory lap. It was a raucous, over-caffeinated explosion of unfiltered humanity wrapped in duct tape, sarcasm, and space junk souvenirs. The Zinthrax Prime, now unofficially renamed the USS Nope, limped through hyperspace under the chaotic command of its new human overlords, leaving behind a trail of burned-out star beacons, scrambled Empire logs, and at least one rogue karaoke transmission, featuring a disturbing remix of Sweet Home Alabama and the Imperial Anthem. Jessie leaned against the main console, sipping a lukewarm energy drink scavenged from a supply locker that had once held neutron warheads. The galaxy wasn't ready for the kind of freedom Earth exported. They didn't just win, they rebranded an entire class of warship into a symbol of resistance powered by friendship bracelets and unfiltered teen rage. Back on Earth, the war wasn't over. It had mutated. What began as retaliatory strikes had become a full-scale, coordinated human response. Civilian militias operated alongside military units in an unprecedented alliance. Suburban dads flew drones over battlefronts while retired hackers rewired communications with coded memes. NASA had long since thrown the rulebook into the sun and was now operating under the tactical doctrine of yes and. SpaceX engineers redesigned shuttles into high-speed battering rams equipped with Bluetooth speakers that only played metal. A single human cargo ship had infiltrated a mining colony simply by declaring itself a pizza delivery service. The universe had never encountered this kind of warfare. Logic failed where chaos reigned. Jessie watched the blue shimmer of Earth's atmosphere grow on the main screen. Her knuckles tightened instinctively. Victory was intoxicating, but trauma didn't fade just because you danced through it. Her voice was raw from leading, not just shouting commands, but from carrying the emotional weight of 7 lives, 29 solar days of captivity, and the savage knowledge that somewhere in the stars, others still suffered under the same imperial arrogance. Tank stood beside her, scanning incoming transmissions. Reports flowed in like a flood. Liberated colonies, confused imperial defectors, planets flying Earth flags not out of loyalty, but in fear of another wave of teenage insurgents. One Zinthrax commander had allegedly surrendered after hearing a single line of dialogue from the Breakfast Club, quoted over a pirate radio station. Rosa bounced in from the corridor, her boots scuffed, her jumpsuit painted with abstract streaks of oil, glitter, and what might have been marinara. Earth Command just sent us the new identification codes. They're calling us the Freedom Class Special Response Unit. We've got a parade slot in New York, a Netflix deal pending, and some kid in Milwaukee just made a Lego set of our ship. Jessie blinked. That's either deeply inspiring or terrifying. Why not both? Kelly said from above, swinging down from a maintenance hatch with a wrench and a box of cookies she'd rigged as makeshift rations. Also, side note, I may have accidentally reverse-engineered the cloaking system. The ship thinks it's invisible. Now, it's not, but I didn't have the heart to tell it. Emily rolled her eyes. We taught an alien war machine self-confidence. That's peak humanity. Their laughter echoed off bulkheads now covered in graffiti, family photos, and more than one motivational cat poster. The transformation wasn't just strategic, it was symbolic. They'd taken a symbol of oppression and turned it into a flying dorm room powered by stubbornness, repurposed tech, and pop culture references. But victory brought questions. Jessie had never intended to be a leader. She was a barista before all this. Her greatest battlefield had been the latte machine at rush hour. Now generals deferred to her. Presidents waited for her call. It was absurd. But then again, so was everything else that had happened since that day in the desert when the sky cracked open and her life turned into an interstellar hostage situation. When Earth's orbital defense hailed them, the transmission wasn't a stiff military greeting. It was an explosion of cheers, confused celebrations, and a chorus of school choirs mashed together in a digital love letter to their safe return. Faces appeared one after another. Parents, siblings, news anchors weeping. Openly, a retired general playing an accordion. The world had watched their rise. Earth hadn't just fought for them, it had changed because of them. Jessie gave the go-ahead to dock. The dreadnought's massive frame creaked as it slid into orbit like a steel whale trying to sneak into a backyard pool party. They landed on a modified carrier platform retrofitted with balloons, confetti cannons, and something suspiciously resembling a slip-and-slide. Jessie stepped onto Earth's surface and the roar nearly knocked her off her feet. The crowd stretched past the horizon. Every screen in every city broadcast their return. Children waved flags, some in glitter camo. Old veterans saluted. Musicians played overlapping renditions of the national anthem, funk remixes blending into rock solos and spontaneous gospel choirs. And somewhere, of course, was a group of conspiracy theorists insisting the whole thing had been staged in a backlot behind Universal Studios. Jessie didn't care. She just wanted to breathe Earth's air, smell the weird city smells, eat food that wasn't dehydrated protein bricks, and sit down in a chair that didn't come with a seatbelt and threat of dismemberment. But peace was a fragile thing. Even as Earth rallied, the remnants of the Empire hadn't vanished. Scattered warlords clung to border systems. Propaganda shifted, rebranding humanity as an invasive species. Jessie knew it wouldn't stop. Not entirely. The war had scarred the stars, but scars were stories, and Earth had found its voice. Humanity wouldn't go back to silence. Earth's response had rewritten the rules of galactic engagement. What once was considered weakness, emotion, individuality, improvisation, was now Earth's weapon. No amount of armor could stop a teenage girl with a personal vendetta and a Wi-Fi connection. Jessie sat with her team in a converted debriefing room turned chill zone. Beanbags, lava lamps, a wall-sized screen playing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Jayla tossed popcorn into the air and caught it without looking. Cassie had already filed a patent for their makeshift AI weapon. Barb ran an ongoing group chat, with alien defectors teaching them slang and sending them Earth snack samples. Rosa, meanwhile, was coordinating a recruitment pipeline with international STEM programs aimed at training the next generation of chaos agents. They weren't soldiers, in the traditional sense. They were the vanguard of a new kind of warfare, one built not on uniformity but on unpredictability, creativity, and just the right amount of sarcasm. Jessie's comms buzzed. A request from the World Security Council, another from the Interplanetary Coalition, and a personal message from a mother on a colony world thanking her for showing her daughter that fear could be turned into power. She turned off the device and stared at the ceiling, letting the moment hold her. For all their jokes, for all their glitter bombs and one-liners, this had been a war. They'd paid a price. Not all of it visible. Not all of it healed. Emily broke the silence. "So what now? We take the ship on tour? Start a podcast?" Jessie smirked. "We rest. We eat real pizza. We visit our families. And when the galaxy forgets and tries something stupid again," Kelly leaned forward, "we remind them." Tank entered the room, arms crossed, the ever-present hint of a grin behind his grizzled exterior. "Word is the Empire's new prime directive is to avoid humans at all costs. Their propaganda says Earth is a cursed rock full of unpredictable lunatics." Barb fist-bumped the air. "Mission accomplished." Jessie stood, stretching, joints popping like bubble wrap. "We didn't start this war, but we sure as hell ended it our way." Outside, Earth glittered with life, loud, chaotic, messy, and beautiful. Above, the stars no longer felt like distant mysteries. They were destinations, warnings, invitations, challenges. The Empire had kidnapped the wrong group. They'd expected fear and obedience. Instead, they got the embodiment of Earth's greatest strength, the refusal to be defined by anyone else's rules. As the team sat together, laughter echoing against the walls of a ship that had seen too much and still stood tall, the message was clear. Humanity wasn't just back. They were just getting started.